The government is preparing a fresh tax grab on private school parents. After Britain's richest families paid hundreds of millions of pounds of fees early to avoid, HMRC will target schools where families paid several years' school fees in advance, ahead of the 20% levy coming into force on January 1, 2025, meaning the payments were not taxed. Officials believe they will be able to claim that flaws in some of the advanced schemes will mean tax is due after all. On Monday, The Telegraph revealed that there was a surge in prepaid fees at the top 50 private schools last year, £515 million paid in advance, up from £121 million in 2023. Government sources said that HMRC would now carefully scrutinize prepayments, amid concerns that some schools may have abused them to avoid VAT. Internal Treasury communications obtained by HMs. The Telegraph show the government expects lengthy legal battles between HMRC and private schools as a result. A briefing note sent by Treasury officials to the Chancellor's team last summer said that the more egregious the prepayment scheme, the more easily we would expect HMRC to be able to recoup the revenue. Private schools were deluged with fee prepayments last year after Labour confirmed in its election. It's a manifesto that it would charge VAT on school fees for the first time. Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, announced on July 29, 2024, that all advanced fee payments from that date would be subject to VAT. But financial accounts analyzed by The Telegraph revealed that parents had already paid millions in upfront fees by then, in the hopes of avoiding the levy. At Eton College, where fees will reach more than £63,000 next year, the total money in its prepayment scheme rose from £16.6 million in 2023 to £52.7 million last year. Brighton College, the most expensive private school in the UK, recorded total prepaid fees of £50.1 million in last year's accounts, up from £4.1 million in 2023. The sums could deal a significant blow to the government's forecasts for how much it will raise through the VAT raid, with prepayments at the top 50 schools alone potentially avoiding £103 million in tax. A Whitehall source said officials would probably target private schools that hurriedly set up fees and advance schemes ahead of the policy's implementation, or those that use them more like deposits. For prepayments to be treated as genuine, they must contractually apply to a specific service at a specific price, rather than a vague lump sum to be sorted out at a future date. This could catch out many top-performing schools, some of which encourage upfront cash in exchange for credits on future tuition fees that are yet to be determined. The government expects it could unleash bitter rows between schools and parents if HMRC discovers families were encouraged into illegitimate use of prepayment schemes. Internal Treasury advice handed to ministers last July, seen by The Telegraph, said, "We expect this to lead to some litigation between HMRC and affected schools, but also disputes between schools and parents over who ultimately bears a potentially unexpected VAT liability." Tax experts said it could lead to parents suddenly being told they are on the hook for tens of thousands of pounds in unpaid VAT several years down the line. Don Needle, founder of Tax Policy Associates, told The Telegraph that although legally schools would be liable for unpaid VAT, schools' terms and conditions usually say parents have to pay. He added, "But parents would be in a good position to contest this, say they weren't warned about the risk. The school structured the arrangement wrongly, and so they won't pay." HMRC can often take several years to complete an investigation into potential unpaid tax, meaning some parents could face long-running legal disputes over school fees. Telegraph analysis shows many private schools received as many as 5 years' fees in advance last year. Many schools already had prepayment schemes ahead of the election, but saw them swell with cash as parents used them amid speculation. Labour would crack down on the potential tax loophole. North London Collegiate School recorded £19.4 million in new contracts in its fees in advance scheme last year, up from £651,000 the year before. Critics told The Telegraph the schemes ultimately helped the most affluent parents to avoid VAT last year, while leaving the less well-off to stump up the tax when it came into force. It comes despite Labour repeatedly stating that its VAT raid on private schools will target the wealthiest families to raise money for state schools. The Treasury has insisted it's factored in the use of prepayment schemes when calculating its expected revenue gain from the VAT policy. However, tax experts appeared stunned at the scale of their use and suggested it could eat into government forecasts, government spokesman said. The Office for Budget, Responsibility has already factored in the increased use of prepayment schemes in its revenue forecasts. Removing tax breaks for private schools is expected to raise £1.8 billion a year by 2029 to 30. This funding will help us recruit 6,500 new teachers and improve standards in state schools to educate 94% of children.